September. On the line to Newsnight, spokesperson for the National Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Solomon Makgale. A very good evening to you and welcome. You are rejecting categorically this representation or interpretation by the ISS, are you?
Yes, we are. It only serves to confuse matters, and I'm listening to the bulletin already. It is confusing. What we have said is that the actual numbers of, or what we call raw figures that we released, are not affected by population figures. So if there were 16,000 people murdered in that particular year, regardless of what the population stats are, they're not affected. The issue here is the crime ratios, which we've indicated that we use the population estimates that are provided by Stats SA. We have been doing so since we started releasing crime statistics, and we've done nothing different this time around.
What then do you say to the ISS tonight that has a completely different interpretation of these numbers?
I'm not sure what one can say to people that, they issued the statement on the 20th of September. They've done so again. It looks like, they're trying very hard to remain relevant. I'm sure they probably enjoy seeing their faces on television. I have absolutely no idea why would they continue down this path.
Well, the ISS says that you are guilty of a deliberate misrepresentation of facts, and they want to know at what level of the SAPS this error was sanctioned. In order to say something like that, Lieutenant General, they must be very confident of their facts.
Well, I wish that they would have said the same thing in 2001 when we released crime statistics. You see, the only difference here is that every 10 years you are going to have this type of anomaly, if you like, where, like in 2011, Stats SA would release the actual crime stats. So what they are saying is that for the 2012 statistics, we are supposed to use the new population estimates that were provided by Stats SA. But we're saying to them, we didn't do so in 2001 when the census was released, and we're not going to do so now, and we're not going to do so in the future. We are going to continue with the methodology that we've used.
Well, having said that, though, you also say in your statement tonight, Lieutenant General, that there is no policy to guide either of us, and hence the reason for the anomaly that you've just referred to. Surely it is now a matter of urgency that some agreed to and unified policy is established.
No, I think the point that we want to emphasize here is that it's an issue of an approach. So we have always released our statistics in this particular manner, and we feel that there's no need at this point in time to change the manner in which the methodology that we use. And if they so wish, if they want to, start a discussion and motivate that we should change the methodology that we use, they should do so. But they should not be saying that the statistics that we have released are inaccurate, because that is what is confusing people out there.
In the Western Cape, police figures that you released show a 0.5% rise in the murder rate. The Institute says it was actually up by 10%. Which figure, Lieutenant General, is correct? There is a huge discrepancy between 0.5% and 10%.
Look, the actual numbers of cases reported, as I said earlier on, they do not change. It is when you start applying the population figures that the ratios would change. That's the point that I was making. So what they're saying is that we used lower population figures as opposed to the higher ones that had just been released. So it's not to say that the actual figures have changed in any way. They remain the same.
Why would you not have applied those new population figures?
As I said, it's the methodology that we use, and we've always used it since we started using the crime stats, where if we were to apply it, we would not be comparing apples with apples. And as I said, every 10 years, you would have this kind of, I use anomaly, put it in inverted commas. It's not really an anomaly, just that every 10 years we obtain actual figures from Stats SA.
I want to ask you two very brief questions. The ISS raises this point. It says 15 years ago in 1998, a ministerial review committee called for a national reference group of police and independent crime and statistics experts to deal with issues like the one that you and I are talking about. Why has that not happened?
Well, look, I'm not aware of that, but I mean, if there is a need for it, we do not have a problem with it. But the point to make is, if, as I said earlier, if you want to raise issues of particular difference, you don't have to go around confusing people and saying that the stats that we released are wrong. They are not wrong. It's an issue of approach, it's an issue of methodology, and we don't agree. We have a particular view, they have a particular view.
But conceivably, the ISS view based on newer population figures could be the right view.
Again, the view that we have could be the right view. So that's why I'm saying it's a moot point. It's not to say that the facts, the stats that we released are wrong. If you say, SAPS, we agree with the methodology that you are using, then say so. Don't say to the public that the stats are wrong.
All right, just a final one, and very quickly. It would appear, and you have suggested in one way or another, that this is another attack on the office of the Commissioner. I ask you tonight, Lieutenant General, can she survive this?
Look, what is interesting about this thing is that we've been using this methodology all along. It was never a problem for ISS. All of a sudden, there's a new commissioner, then it becomes a problem. And you can see there's a concerted effort. I mean, as I said, they issued a statement on the 20th saying the same issue. They're raising it again today, so I'm sure they'll raise it again in the future to try and put pressure, I suppose, on the people that appointed the National Commissioner to say they've made a mistake, and absolutely not.
All right, thank you very much for joining us. Lieutenant General Solomon Makgale from the SAPS. A little later on tonight, in fact around 7:30 here on Newsnight, we will get a full review of those numbers from the ISS.
News that moves. eNCA.com.